This is an investment. For every $1 that we spend on infrastructure, we get a return on that investment. For every $1 that we spend on tax cuts, we get less than $1 back. And so this is about making smart investments, and this is about making investments that actually generate returns and not lying about the fact that they generate returns. They actually generate returns.
Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez introduced House Resolution 109 of the 116th Congress, formally titled Recognizing the Duty of the Federal Government to Create a Green New Deal.
All great American programs, everything from the Great Society to the New Deal, started with a vision for our future.
In this video, I will talk about 5 central questions pertaining to the Green New Deal. Where does the idea of a Green New Deal come from? What exactly does it do? What does it say? What are its chances of passing? And what will it cost?
It's not just possible that we will create jobs and economic activity by transitioning to renewable energy, but it's inevitable that we are going to create jobs. It's inevitable that we're going to create industry, and it's inevitable that we can use the transition to 100% renewable energy as the vehicle to truly deliver and establish economic, social, and racial justice in the United States of America.
Thomas L. Friedman introduced the concept of a Green New Deal in an op-ed in the New York Times in January of 2007. Frustrated with a lack of serious proposals to bring about a clean energy economy, he argued, "The right rallying call is for a Green New Deal." The New Deal was not built on a magic bullet, but on a broad range of programs and industrial projects to revitalize America. Ditto for an Energy New Deal. If we are to turn the tide on climate change and end our oil addiction, we need more of everything. Solar, wind, hydro, ethanol, biodiesel, clean coal, and nuclear power, and conservation. It takes a Green New Deal because to nurture all of these technologies to a point where they really scale would be a huge industrial project. If you've put a windmill in your yard or some solar panels on your roof, bless your heart. But we will only green the world when we change the very nature of the electricity grid, moving it away from dirty coal or oil to clean coal and renewables. And that is a huge industrial project, much bigger than anyone has told you. Finally, like the New Deal, if we undertake the green version, it has the potential to create a whole new clean power industry to spur our economy into the 21st century. A group of environmentalists with expertise in a variety of fields took up that idea and formed the Green New Deal Group in 2007. They published a lengthy report, including a series of proposals to deal with what they called a triple crunch, a combination of a credit-fueled financial crisis, accelerating climate change, and soaring energy prices underpinned by an encroaching peak in oil production. The idea was further promoted when the United Nations Environment Program issued a series of global Green New Deal proposals, with the aim of simultaneously fighting climate change and boosting employment. Jill Stein included a Green New Deal as a major part of her presidential platforms in 2012 and 2016. The Green Party's version of the Green New Deal involves 4 key pillars: an economic bill of rights, a green transition, real financial reform, and a functioning democracy. The Green New Deal resolution recently introduced by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is just the most recent iteration of a thematically similar, albeit substantially varying set of principles and goals. House Resolution 109 is a non-binding resolution broad in scope which sets goals but does not implement specific policies to achieve those goals. In other words, it's just a first step, even if the resolution is accepted in both the House and the Senate and signed by the President. Nothing changes except the voting records of lawmakers who sign on. The resolution spells out a set of goals, a time frame to achieve them, and some more specific actions that must be made in order to achieve those goals. The resolution calls for a national mobilization effort to meet the following targets within 10 years. Create millions of good, high-wage jobs, provide unprecedented levels of prosperity and economic security, counteract systematic injustices, achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions through a fair and just transition, invest in infrastructure and industry to sustainably meet the challenges of the 21st century, secure for all Americans clean air and water, climate and community resiliency, healthy food, access to nature, and a sustainable environment. promote justice and equity by stopping current, preventing future, and repairing historic oppression of indigenous peoples, communities of color, migrant communities, deindustrialized communities, depopulated rural communities, the poor, low-income workers, women, the elderly, the unhoused, people with disabilities, and youth. Some of the more specific items to achieve these goals would include building resiliency against climate change-related disasters, repairing and upgrading infrastructure, meeting 100% of the power demand in the United States through clean, renewable, and zero-emission energy sources, building smart power grids, upgrading all buildings to increase energy and water efficiency as well as affordability, comfort, and durability, expanding clean manufacturing, removing pollution and greenhouse gas emissions from agriculture and transportation systems, cleaning up hazardous waste, protecting vulnerable ecosystems, restoring natural ecosystems that increase soil carbon storage, supporting community-defined projects and strategies, and promoting international exchanges of technology and expertise. The resolution also calls upon the government to work with Indigenous peoples to protect their land rights and sovereignty, work with unions and strengthen collective bargaining rights, enact and enforce trade rules with protections for labor and the environment, guarantee a job with a family-sustaining wage, adequate family and medical leave, paid vacations, and retirement security for all, eliminate unfair competition and monopolies, provide all Americans with high-quality healthcare, affordable, safe, and adequate housing, economic security, and clean water, clean air, healthy and affordable food, and access to nature. Because this resolution is relatively short and relatively consequential, I will list a link to the full text as the first item on my sources list in the description box of this video. I suggest you give it a read. While the resolution is non-binding, the chances of it passing are slim, as support for it appears to be split mainly along partisan lines. While the bill has 67 co-sponsors in the House, and the identical Senate version of the bill has 11 co-sponsors, none of any of these co-sponsors are Republicans. While the majority of the House is Democratic, several prominent House Democrats have declined to comment on the resolution yet, and the support from leadership has been somewhat lukewarm. Nancy Pelosi has said of the resolution, "It will be one of several or maybe many suggestions that we receive, the green dream or whatever they call it. Nobody knows what it is, but they're for it, right?" As for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she has repeatedly claimed that Pelosi is standing with her on the proposal, even embracing the term the green dream.
Are you offended that Speaker Pelosi called this the green dream?
No, I think it is a green dream. And I think that it is. And
I think AOC is being fair here. Let's remember that Pelosi somewhat graciously put up with AOC leading protests in her office, so it's not completely unreasonable that her support for AOC's resolution would be a little tepid and dismissive as long as in the end she supports the serious measures needed to implement the plan. Pelosi has also made more broad, positive statements about the plan.
We welcome the enthusiasm that is there. The Green New Deal points out the fact that the public is much more aware of the challenge that we face, and that is a good thing because the public sentiment will help us pass the most bold common denominator, the bold initiatives.
It's unclear whether she and other moderate Democrats will support the resolution, but even if the Democratic-controlled House passes it, the Republican-controlled Senate is another matter. Mitch McConnell told reporters, "I've noted with great interest the Green New Deal, and we're going to be voting on that in the Senate to give everybody an opportunity to go on record." Reading between the lines here, it seems Mitch feels not only that the resolution has no chance of passing, he sees it as a political opportunity, possibly to drive a wedge between progressive and moderate Democrats. That's just my interpretation. At any rate, with the progressive economics involved in the resolution, you can expect that no Republican will ever vote for it. Even if, by some miracle, the resolution were to pass the Senate and the House, the president would actually have to sign on, and that simply won't happen during the Trump administration. He used the Green New Deal as a new line of attack against Democrats in a recent rally, and on Twitter he joked, "I think it is very important for Democrats to press forward with their Green New Deal. I think it would be great for the so-called carbon footprint to permanently eliminate all planes, cars, cows, oil, gas, and the military, even if no other country would do the same. Brilliant." Just to be clear, the Green New Deal does not call on the elimination of planes, cars, cows, or the military. It does, however, call for investment in zero emissions agriculture and transportation. So far, the Congressional Budget Office has not evaluated the costs of the Green New Deal. In fact, the goals are so broad that the CBO may never create a cost assessment. I mean, how do you put a price tag on something as ambiguous as promoting international exchange of technology and expertise? How do you enumerate the cost of something as broad as meeting 100% of the power demand through zero-emission energy sources? There's obviously numerous ways of going about doing that. There's quite simply too many unknowns involved here. Price tags can only reasonably be put on specific, limited proposals. Still, numerous conservative op-eds have criticized H.R. 109 for being too expensive. For example, one opinion piece in the Washington Examiner asserts, "It's quite safe to say if all of the provisions were carried out, the cost would be in the tens of trillions of dollars." In fact, it's not safe to say that, as no valid nonpartisan cost assessment has been done. Putting any kind of figure on this is silly. Still, it is fair enough to say that such an undertaking, no matter how it is done, would require large investments from the government. Here's how AOC defended the resolution against the critique that it will be expensive.
This president seeks to expand government into the bodies of women. They seek to expand government to spontaneously generate detention centers all along our southern border. They seek to expand government in separating children from their parents. They seek to expand government in passing massive increases in military spending when we have no wars that we should be fighting. So this is not about who's expanding government. It's about who we're working for. And we're choosing to work for the people of the United States.
To buttress what AOC is saying here, I do want to point out that it does seem rare that conservative priorities ever face the what will it cost question, with the obvious exception of Trump's wall or steel slats or fence, whatever it is right now. I did not see the question raised about Trump's tax cuts for the mega rich. I did not see it raised for any war America has ever engaged in. And yet, when it comes to transforming the energy systems in the United States to take on climate change, the costs don't just lie on one side of the issue. Had Republicans read the Green New Deal, which is again a very short resolution, they may have noticed that the resolution explains the expense of not dealing with climate change. Whereas the October 2018 report entitled Special Report on Global Warming of 1.5 Degrees by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and the November 2018 Fourth National Climate Assessment Group found that global warming at or above 2 degrees Celsius beyond pre-industrialized levels will cause more than $500 billion in lost annual economic output in the United States by the year 2100 and a risk of damage to $1 trillion of public infrastructure and coastal real estate in the United States. As George Carlin once explained, when we talk about saving the planet, what we're actually talking about is protecting our, humanity's, habitat.
Do you know what they're interested in? A clean place to live. Their own habitat. There is nothing wrong with the planet. Nothing wrong with the planet. The planet is fine. The people are fucked. Difference.
The Green New Deal, as espoused by H.R. 109, is certainly not the only way that we can possibly avoid having our habitat destroyed. But it is currently the only framework formally introduced in Congress that even begins to deal with climate change with sufficient breadth to actually make a difference. The cost of its implementation, or the implementation of any program like it, sufficient to counteract the dangers of climate change, may indeed be very, very expensive. But let's consider option B. Not implementing such a program. What will it cost?
It's unsurprising that the response to any bold proposal that we have is to incite fear. But the only way we are going to get out of this situation is by choosing to be courageous.